Good early morning there, Silver Stackers. Tazzy Stacker here with you on the workbench. Now I'm just going to do a quick VR to Sunset Bay Bonnie, who has broken the handles on her knife, or the scales. Now on a full tang knife, and a full tang is simple because a full tang, the tang goes all the way through and you've got handle parts on both sides, which are referred to as scales. Okay, and it's held on with epoxy and with pins. Now, she wanted to, I believe you said something about you wanted to know how wide the diameter of the pins were. Okay, so for example, these are digital calipers. They are pretty ubiquitous. I mean, i.e. they're everywhere. And this will tell you exactly the diameter. So for example, if I take this Lansky stand and I hold this here, that'll tell me that it is, okay, we'll call that 9.5 millimeter. Okay, so it's exactly the same. It'll do exactly the same trick. You can get mechanical versions of these as well. They don't have to be digital, but you get what I'm talking about. Okay, so now for squaring up the scales, you're on the right path. You take a piece of sandpaper like this, you put it on the flattest surface you have, and it could be a piece of glass. Actually, the flattest thing you'll probably ever use is a thick piece of glass. That works really well too. And you basically just take your scale and you just rub it back and forth until she's square. And then you apply that to the handle. Now, an easy trick, it's a bit of a cheat, but it works, is, okay, let's just take this block of hew and burl here. It's not square, it's not flat. Okay, we know that, but let's just pretend that it is square. You just split it down the middle. You take the perfectly flat sides on either side, and you use, and these faces get attached to the knife, and they're the inside edge. The rough sawn edge, which is this cut right here in the middle, they go on the outside. Okay, the other thing is, like for example with epoxy, don't buy cheap epoxy. If you use cheap epoxy, you'll get a cheap result. I use an epoxy made by a company called Zap-A-Gap. It's a two-part epoxy. This sets in 30 minutes. It's waterproof, and once it's set, it's hard as rock. Now you could, for example, let it set for exactly 30 minutes and then start working on it if you want, and it'll be fine. I've done that. It's not a problem. I generally tend to leave it glued up overnight, just for shits and giggles and to be on the safe side. Okay, so now what else? Yeah, you're pretty much doing exactly what you're supposed to do. It's fine. Like, for example, okay, if this is what you're going to use for the handle, and it's a round piece of timber, and you cut it through the middle, basically it's exactly the same thing as using this square thing. You basically just split in the middle, and you make this face as square as flat as you possibly can. Glue it to the handle. Don't worry about squaring up the outside edge until you attach it to the handle, and then you can shape it. Now, that's one way to do it, or you can square it all up beforehand and end up with a nice, this is another example, nice flat piece of timber, nice square flat piece of timber, and then, you know, you trace out the shape of the handle, cut it, you know, close, but leave a little bit of a gap, and then if you've got something like a Dremel, like, for example, this is sandpaper wheel on here, you can use that to shape the handle and to square it up and all the rest. God, I hope that was useful. Look, don't hesitate to contact me if you want some bits and pieces of information, or maybe some tips and tricks. Anyway, I hope all this was useful for you, and as always, rate, subscribe, and comment down below, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you very much, and good luck, Bonnie, and I hope it goes well.